comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Hello guys, and welcome to Talking with the Teams with me, your Robot Wars fanatic Harry.
And me, your BattleBots expert Charlie.
And joining us today, we have the Series 10 Grand Finalists and generally fantastic people, Letty and Andy from Team Rapid. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Hi guys.
Hi.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
It's no problem. It's lovely to have you here. You've been very supportive of Good Bowl ever since we did that second podcast with the opening Here Comes the Money thing. I think that's where it all came from. So,
and people said memes are a waste of time.
We loved it. We really loved it. We thought you guys did a great job, you know, so.
It's fantastic. It's lovely to have your support. So anyway, let's just get into the thick of all of this. And of course, let's start with how you guys got into roboteering. We don't really get to see like the history behind how Team Rapid came together. And it'd be really interesting to hear that.
I started building robots when I was about 15 or 16 years old, which is actually about 15 years ago now. And it was down to a robot magazine that said how to build a robot. And it was down to featherweights mainly on a week by week. It was Rex Garrard who did the article. So I was doing this, looked at it, couldn't build it in my bedroom at home at 15. And there was a 2-page spread on how to build an amp weight. And it was modified RC servos, 100 gram weight limit at the time, 2 pages. And I thought, I can do that. That's something that in 2 pages explain how to do it. That's not too difficult. I can build a robot from this guide. So for my birthday, I then asked for the parts. And I built my first amp weight in my bedroom using sellotape, wheels made out of Lego, that sort of thing. And then from there, I built better and better robots, and then took part in the miniature 150 gram amp weight classes, and did that right up until I built Rapid for Robot Wars.
You met Josh through that too, didn't you?
Yes, so a long time ago, about 10 years ago, no, 12 years ago, in fact, I met Josh. So at one of these small amp weight events, I think it was in Aylesbury Town Centre, there's about 10 roboteers with an amp weight arena in the middle of the town centre, just having a bit of fun to display the robots in front of the public. I can't remember the event now, but it was just the amp weights there. And Josh turned up at 11 years old with his mum. And that's how I met Josh, was in the middle of a town centre fighting amp weight robots.
That's such a history that you guys have had that since you were like, what you said you were 15 and Josh was 11.
Yeah, I would have been about somewhere between 15 and 16 at the time, and Josh was 11. Even though Josh is only 23, I've known him for over 10 years.
And now he's your boss.
and now he is my boss, yes. Bizarre. It's a strange situation.
I really do like the your amp weight Anticide. That one is a fantastic machine there. Give a bit of history on how that design process came about.
Obviously inspired by Robot Wars. Loved the robots like Chaos 2 when I was a child. Loved the flippers more than any other type of weapon. So I tried to build pneumatics into the amp weights, 150 gram pneumatics. And the first set I bought was from Inertia Labs. They sold a tiny little pneumatic set. It was a bit too big for UK amp weights, but I squeezed it down and got it in. And then from there, I built my own custom pneumatics. So I was machining my own parts, and it evolved into Anticide. So Anticide's been pneumatics now over 10 years for that robot.
Machining your own pneumatics, that is amazing.
The RAM in Anticide weighs about 13 grams, so it's really small parts. That's where my experience for building pneumatic parts came from. And Rapid's just a scaled up version of Anticide. That's where the robot's based on.
Literally, I think you can see 3D printed Anticide and it looks exactly the same as Rapid. It's just made of metal, basically.
Yeah,
so
it's the same shape, just scaled up. It's got 4-wheel drive, really wide flipper. Yeah, it's the same robot, just bigger.
That's fantastic. Have you done any other robots too? Have you always just been sticking with flippers? Because I love flippers. That's my favourite weapon as well in robot combat. I think there's just something so great just about, like, you know, Chaos 2, Danton Kier. But have you ever like delved into anything else, or has it just always been about pneumatics?
Yeah, so with the amp weights, you get the advantage of being able to enter 4 robots into one competition. You get a lot more fights in one day than you ever get with the larger weight classes. So typically I have 2 spinners and a cluster robot, as well as Anticide. I've got a walking shuffler bot called Quijibo, which I used to fight with as well, where the blade weighed about 120 grams on a walker. So half the weight of the robot was the disc.
It's come a long way since like Robot Wars Series 3, where you had the walker battles with 2 robots walking towards each other, and the damage was they bumped into one another. That's just incredible.
Yeah. What I love about the amp weights is they don't tend to destroy each other. They just tend to fly. So the pneumatic ones, the spinners, they tend to hit the roof of the battle box and just bounce around and then carry on working. They'll just keep going. That's what I like about the little weight class. It's not quite so destructive on the robots.
So it's kind of like a hadron collider, basically. It's just got like these things flying everywhere.
Typically, the robot arena used to have 50% drop-off. When the robots were servo-driven, they were so slow, 50% drop-off was required to have a fight in a reasonable length of time. Because the robots have got more powerful and faster, the drop-offs got smaller and smaller over the years, because the spinners used to hit each other and bounce out, and then they'd put them back into the arena, they'd hit each other, they'd fly out, and it happened 5 or 6 times in a row until one bounced back in and one didn't, and that was the winner. There's some good videos of the World Series events on YouTube, the full hour event.
But I guess at night, because some of the other guys, so like Tim from Team Concussion, are now starting to build amp weights as well. So it's quite nice. So actually the guys doing heavyweights are starting to move into amp weights and vice versa. So you get a lot more kind of ideas drifting on through, aren't you?
Yeah, it's quite good. I think it's quite nice to see when a lot of the heavyweight guys don't like building the small robots because they're quite fiddly. We've seen the likes of Team Tauron and Team Concussion turning up at the amp weights events, and they suddenly realise it's actually really difficult to try and get everything in a small package. I agree that there's not quite so much engineering involved. The fundamentals are the same, which is quite nice. And you can build one out of cardboard and sellotape, and you can win the Amp Weight World Series event, which is, I think, is one of the biggest competitive robot events in the world. 70 to 80 robots turn up in one day.
I remember watching like a live stream at some point. It was like about like a 2 or 3 hour long thing, and it was just loads of kids who just made their own little ant weights, and like they just made out of like paper and things. Obviously, there wasn't very much in the way of weaponry or anything like that, but it was just great to see people making these little robots, and just they're on such cheap as well. It's great. It's really good that we have the amp weight classes available.
I actually think it's one of the better ways to start, because you don't need machinery, you don't need a milling machine, you don't need CNC. You can start with duct tape and card. If you build 4 of them, it can cost you maybe £250 to build 4 robots, which is really cheap compared to the heavyweights. A motor's easily double that on its own. From where I started in robots, driving the amp weights, you get 30 fights maybe in a day. With heavyweights, you might get 1, possibly 2 if they're pushing you. They're much faster than the heavyweights. The speed is 5 times the heavyweights, which is why at season 9 of Robot Wars, Rapid was quite slow. We just went on the numbers of everyone else, who went about 14 miles an hour the first time we entered Rapid. Well, I thought personally it was way too slow, so we almost doubled it for season 10.
Yeah.
The difference between Rapid of Series 9 and Series 10, just incredible. Like just how like much faster, more stocky, and just terrifying it is.
Yeah.
We went from basically being like everyone else who was like, oh, Rapid, they're the rich team, and then you had Series 10, and it was like I come out with Rapid being one of my favorite robots. Like I just absolutely loved it. Now we're talking to you guys. So
yeah, it's strange going from basically a kid building robots in his bedroom out of sticky back plastic. I just my hobby, just going to this event 3 times a year. Then started 3D printing them. And then I started work with Josh, actually, when I moved down to London to move in with Letty. Season 8, the first new season of Robot Wars came on the TV. Obviously, working with Josh, it's like, can we build a robot? So Josh said, sure, you design it, we'll do it. So it was just like a 10-minute conversation with Josh. I just was CADing every night like a madman trying to get a design so we could build for season 9. And that's really where it's all started from. And
I must say, it's seeing Andy CAD like a madman. He honestly, some nights he would come home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be like, "What are you doing? Just sleep in the office. Don't come and disturb me." But you did really well. You did really well.
The famous gearbox of Rapid. How did the design of that come about?
For the drive on Rapid, the reason it's so complicated is we were looking at belts and chains. And how often do you see a chain or belt fail in Robot Wars and BattleBots? It happens regularly. So we were trying to work out what chain we needed to withstand the stall torque of the large mag motors, which is what most people are using now. And it was some ridiculous gauge chain that was about almost an inch wide, 25mm wide chain. And we just went, that's just insane. We built a gearbox that was probably a bit too complicated, but we only wanted 1 drive motor rather than front and back drive motors. So we just ended up with a huge gearbox rather than chains. It was down to trying to minimize the thickness of the gearbox, because the chain would have required multiple stages, whereas the gearbox is just 1 straight line. We just got a bit carried away, I think.
It's a beautiful piece of machinery, though.
Yeah, it's really nice. It was a real shame in season 9 to get some bit of swarf in the gearbox. It was a really upsetting thing to happen.
I imagine trying to fix a gearbox like that is not exactly the most successful thing.
We obviously built Rapid very quickly, so we had to do a bit of trimming inside the gearbox to get the shafts to go through the bulkheads. And it was just a little bit of that cut-off swarf that just got through. There was a small gap between the motor and the entrance to the gearbox. Must have got through there, jammed the gear up. It was just the way that the machine was bolted together with that sort of massive welded chassis and frame of the armour. We just couldn't get it off in time. That armour was the biggest problem you've ever seen. It warped a huge amount when we welded it. And that was just down to not knowing how much it would bend and change with the welding.
But I think it's also we didn't quite understand the materials we were using, so we didn't understand how warped the hard ops would become. And that's something, for example, we changed in Rapid too. We made it much more modular. So one of my demands when we came back from Series 9 was we've got to make the robot so we can fix it in 15 minutes. And that's basically what I said to Andy, and Andy kind of made it happen, which was really useful.
So the change for the Rapid 2 was that the armour bolted to the gearbox cover, and then the whole lot could slide out. We had it was 10 bolts, and we could get to the gearbox. And
fantastic!
Wow. Every one of those bolts was accessible from the outside, and we could just slide it out. It compromised the armour a bit, which we saw with Carbide. But the accessibility to the gearbox was there. So between every fight, we could have the gearboxes out, clean the gears up and put it back together again.
But that's just amazing, just like in terms of just like design. Like go from Series 9 where you had your problem, where you realised, okay, we have got an issue here, then to come back in Series 10 and actually learn from that mistake and just make this robot, which, you know, you guys went out in the head-to-heads of Series 9, then came back and got to the grand final.
And fundamentally, it was still the same machine. It was just improved upon. What we sometimes don't see in Robot Wars is some big improvements in robots. You tend to see the same machine regularly. Like the likes of Eruption, I don't think it's changed in about 10 years. It's fundamentally the same machine it always was. It's maybe got a new chassis, but it's the same machine. Whereas Rapid were trying to do something new and different. Yeah. What we also learned was getting underneath the robots. If you see the fight versus Terahertz in Season 9, we never get underneath the front of that robot. Terahertz is a really low machine. But in Season 10, Heat Final, not once did we fail to get underneath him, just by changing the materials on the front of the robot. Yeah. That's really good.
I must say I love that Heat Final. It's probably one of my favourite fights from just the reboot in general. I have to congratulate you, Andy, on the driving of that, because me and Charlie were talking after that and we were saying, like, what the hell has happened to Rapid? Like, oh my god, because like we all remember fondly like Tornado and like Series 5, Series 6, and well, maybe not Series 5 so much. Series 6 kind of ramming robots all over the place and just like really using that arena effectively. And we haven't really seen that so much with the Robot Wars reboot. It's very much just spinner versus spinner, ultimate destruction, and that's very much what you get. But with Rapid, we were seeing this robot which, instead of just throwing machines out as soon as possible, instead you were throwing terahertz into the wall, flipper into the spikes. We loved it so much. Yeah,
the funny thing with the Rapid at Season 10 was that every time we turned the gas on, there was a huge gas leak. Every fight up until Carbide, the robot was leaking like a sieve. Standing next to it, it was loud, the hissing sound.
You could really hear it from across the room, kind of, as it hit away. And we're like, right, we've got to get it in the arena, and we've just got to either save our flips or with traction, just flip them out in the 5 seconds.
Which is why you see us, with the traction fight, you see us react so heavily with a massive high five. That was really leaking. There's a lot more flips in a heavyweight than there is in an antweight because of the CO2, but the leak was pretty bad. Because of the filming, it obviously looks like you're down at the bottom, the robot's there, and then you fight immediately. There's about a 5 to 10 minute wait of this robot leaking like a sieve, where we're just like, get it started. Because that's why I was very keen for Season 10 to line the flips up, which is why you didn't see me using the flipper very much. We only did about 10, 15 flips in the whole competition because we were leaking so badly. We really wanted to line them up. You see in the likes of Apollo and Iron Ore, they're flipping everything continuously. As soon as they get on the flipper, the flip button's pressed. Most robots aren't going to lose by getting turned upside down. Most robots got good Streamex. We try and line up the flips to get them over the wall.
Yeah,
I love it. I just love that whole thing of when you aren't actually using the flipper and you just ram that robot into the sidewall, and I'm just like, oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah, Rapid's drive is really impressive. There's so much power. I think we've got more power than Storm 2 had. Just with the improvements on the drive, that's using 2 of the big mag motors. And most of the robots are now using those. Season 10, I know that Carbide had them, Apollo was using them, Concussion are using them for drive. Yet Rapid seems to have so much more presence in the arena. I think it's down to the gearbox and the four-wheel drive. We're using really soft rubber on the wheels so that they don't last many fights, but very grippy.
It's very cleverly designed Rapid. I think that's something that me and Charlie really appreciated watching the show, watching Series 10 especially, just being like, we loved Rapids. I think it was very different, despite being a tried and done concept of obviously being, you know, the typical British wedge flipper. It added levels of kind of ingenuity and innovation, which we loved. Plus the way that you were driving it, of course, Andy, but just it was so different to how we've seen flippers being driven at all in Robot Wars, honestly.
What we wanted to do is build an amp weight version of a heavyweight, which is why we've got the sort of uber wide flipper on the front of it. It does cause problems having a flipper that weighs over 20 kilos. it tends to kick the robot backwards quite a lot. It's part of the reason the bungee was snapping. There's so much inertia in that flipper arm. Just trying to stop it was the problem. We always knew it was going to be a crazy machine.
Well, we did the maths and we worked out that the bungee snapped when 1,000 kilos of force that went through the bungee. Yeah, we've improved our bungee a lot now, I must say.
Well, the main reason we went out with Rapid is actually the self-righting as well. So the bungee snapping was the reason we lost season 10, and not being able to self-right was the reason we went out season 9. We've learned a lot about how the pneumatics works at heavyweight scale. So we can introduce the new robot for King of Bots. The robot's going to be called Formula, and it's basically a robot that's an improved version of Rapid. Hopefully, we don't know until we actually try it in the arena. But what we've basically done is we've made the flipper half the width of Rapid, and then played around with the geometry. So the robot is now 40% smaller than Rapid. Which is
can't imagine that.
Which is incredible. So it's 15 centimeters shorter and 15 centimeters less wide, and we've only added about 2 centimeters to the height. So it's the typical size of a middleweight as a heavyweight flipper, full pressure.
Full pressure, yeah.
And it's actually got a more powerful weapon than Rapid had as well. So we've put more power into a robot a lot smaller.
We've got a video of us testing it in the garage, and actually we're trying to debate here whether we actually do a full pressure flip, because we found that a half pressure flip is actually still and powerful of Rapid, and won't flip us over the edge, won't be too big basically.
Yeah, so this is the first time, this robot we built for King of Bots is the first time I've ever managed to test the robot before going to the filming, which is crazy, because Rapid was such a quick build, we turned up at Robot Wars and then turned it on, which is why things like the weapon didn't work particularly well on season 9, because we never turned it on. With this new one, we've actually managed to test it, which is it's terrifying.
It looks great, and we've done some lights with it as well. So basically, the lights will kind of go vump, vump, and as it gets faster, the flash should get quicker.
Oh my god!
And then if you turn right, it'll be like a car, so it will basically take right. If you go left,
indicators.
So
my gosh!
So the
I love this.
Yeah, so the robot's Formula, so it's sort of a sports car Formula 1 style themed car. It's not the gold Rapid look anymore. So we've got headlights and tail lights. So as the robot turns, the tail light, the red tail light blinks to indicate which way the robot's turning.
That's fantastic.
So hopefully on the slow-mo, this thing's going to look great. It's like a disco ball when you flip as well. There's LEDs everywhere. There's over 100 LEDs on the thing as well.
We just want to make sure we light up the arena. And when we tested the LEDs, we were like, oh, maybe we should put LEDs on the outside of the robot and just blind the opponent. They really do. We're thinking in Robot Wars, they might give some money towards us, and we're thinking we're just going to hand out sunglasses to everyone in the audience, so they can just put it on and all be Team Rapid.
Yes. I'm kind of wondering, like, with the robot, the way you describe it, how you guys would approach if you had, like, theoretically fight a robot like Tanche.
We're not too sure, because King of Bots have now allowed CO2 into this season. It's a strange hybrid between BattleBots and Robot Wars. The first season of King of Bots was nitrogen only, so the flippers weren't particularly powerful. So this season is now allowed CO2. So Tanche will be running CO2. So we should see much bigger flippers than we saw in season 1 of King of Bots. So this machine is pretty sure it's going to be the most powerful RAM ever in a heavyweight, and it's on a much smaller robot, so we have tons of extra power than we ever had in Rapid. Hopefully we get some big flips, because King of Bots has got the advantage of very low walls. They're much lower than any bigger event.
I love flippers, and I think it's a real shame we don't see as many of them nowadays in like the actual televised shows. So it'd be great to see King of Bots. You know, we saw the Chinese bot Saber, Excalibur, whatever you want to call it. And then we don't know. All of the Chinese translations is kind of confusing. But then we have the Bronco style robot, Raging Bull, and then you had Tanshay. And I think that was very much about it in terms of the flippers.
Yeah, the flipper quality at King of Bots wasn't very high, which is why I think we did get accepted into the competition, is because we were basically entering something like Rapid. We just really hope this robot performs. We've got no fight data with it. We're just going to turn up and enter it. But we have tested it, which is further than we ever got with Rapid.
Yeah, at least that's something, eh? It must be quite scary, I imagine, like turning up to Robot Wars or to any event and not testing your robot. I'm thinking, I hope it works, because we're on the show now.
The first fight of season 9 was the first time we'd ever turned a heavyweight robot on. We got to Robot Wars after this 4-week mad build. We started ordering parts 4 weeks, so 2 weeks was waiting for parts to arrive, and then we did the whole build in 2 weeks, which is why the welded frame is a bit out. It was absolutely manic. So we turned it to Robot Wars, we put it in the arena, we put the gas in, no leaks in season 9, so that was good. But we fired it for the first time and the flipper arm almost came off. It blew itself backwards. It turned itself over backwards and landed onto its flipper with the first ever flip. After snapping the bungee on the first ever flip, we then went, well, it's upside down, we might as well test the self-righting. We did a 1.5 somersault in the test arena and landed with sort of the mouth open, as we did at the end of season 10.
Oh no!
That was the first 2 ever flips, and we had the entire pits were watching it after that. Just ridiculous. Never seen anything like it.
That's incredible.
That was the first time a flipper firing, and I was the one operating the weapon, and it was just like, what have we built? and then so all we did from that point was we took it out of the test arena, refitted the bungee, and then put it into the arena against Terahertz, Jellyfish, and Nuts. That was the first ever fight we had. As soon as we came out of the test arena, it was, let's just go straight to the arena. So we knew the bungee was going to break if we missed a flip, which is why you see us go after Jellyfish, because it was so high. We wanted to test the flipper on a heavyweight, but when we knew that one, we weren't going to miss. So we flip it 3 or 4 times, because we know that the extra weight means the bungee's not going to break. That's why we were like, let's have a go with the flipper. That's when we started seeing the issues, like the flipper didn't come down properly. Yeah, we learned a lot from the first fight.
I think we knew that the season 10 robot, we had a good sit down after season 9 and a good kind of recall of what worked and what didn't work. And I'm kind of very militant that, you know, we don't go back to Robot Wars unless we have a winning machine. Then we improved on what we felt didn't work. And we knew season 10 we had a pretty good robot, and it was then down to Andy driving and whether the flipper would work or not, which it did. So we did very well. Yeah.
And when it came to designing for King of Bots, it was the same list came out of what was wrong with the season 10 Rapid. You must do this, you must do this. I think I ignored some of them. So Letty's very concerned that the new machine won't work. But that's what you get for building a new machine.
That's what you get.
We've got rid of the huge complicated gearbox from Rapid, but we've made an even more complicated gearbox.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated and it caused a lot more issues. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not the happiest, but Andy will make it work. I
was very upset for about a week trying to get this gearbox assembled. The new gearbox is a gearbox inside the wheel, which is insane. So the new Formula gearbox is a planetary gearbox. Inside every wheel is a planetary gearbox.
That is amazing.
It shrinks the robot down ridiculously. It's so small.
It's either going to be great or it's going to be rubbish. But the thing is, at least if one wheel goes, the rest of the wheels will still work. With the other robots, if one wheel went or the gearbox went, one side would go. So I guess odds are we might be okay.
Yeah, so we've got the advantage now that if with 4 separate motors, 4 separate gearboxes, if one wheel or motor gets taken out, you've still got the other 3 to drive on. Whereas Rapid, if you lose one side, you've lost the fight.
I can't wait to see more teams turning up in King of Bots. I know we've got a load of new ones who are coming along. So it's great to hear that you guys are going to be there, because I think that everyone just really just loved Rapid after Series 10. I mean, I think you guys, you made a real impact on that series for me. I think that there's just those moments of when you flip out traction and you beat Gravity's record against Danton Key, which is something I'm sure you're very proud of, to be able to now own that record.
We didn't realise that was the quickest fight ever until after we'd finished the fight and gone back to the pits, people were telling us that's the fastest ever. It's really strange when you're actually up there in the arena, the pressure on you is immense to actually take part. I actually thought that fight was slow. In my head, you see me twitch at the robot. So actually, it could have been faster, I think, is the biggest part of it. As I approached them, I turned around the corner into them to try and underneath the corner of their wedge. I don't think it was entirely necessary because traction was quite high. It was trying to get underneath the corner of them rather than straight on. I think it could have been a bit quicker.
Jeez. It was fantastic. It was one of those moments. I just remember watching it and I was messaging Charlie as I was watching the episode and I was like, oh my god, Rapid are bastards. They're trying to like ruin these kids' dreams. Like, like as soon as you're like, I think our robot's leaking, I was like, oh no, they're just gonna flip it out.
Well, yeah, the robot they had was sort of built with Will Thomas from Aftershock.
Yes.
So that's how good. It was interesting that the person that built the robot was a university student, and he commented, "It's interesting to see my old robot on Robot Wars." it was built as like a all-terrain robot rather than a fighting robot. So that was interesting. But
it's based on a bomb disposal unit made by the guys who made Terminal Ferocity all the way back in like Series 3. So it's got like, there's this crazy amount of like, when you look into it, the amount of history behind literally every team and every robot. It's just crazy in Robot Wars.
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult for new people to come into Robot Wars. There's so many entrants. It would be difficult to have a team without a bit of history or background in robot combat to make it. I think that's part of the reason why the small ones are good, is because you can say that I've got this experience in robot. For a team to turn up with a robot that they've built in the shed for Robot Wars, I think they'll struggle to enter. That's what I don't necessarily like about Robot Wars, is there's not a lot of the new teams. If you go back to like season 1 of Robot Wars, when they put the gauntlet in, they could easily get to 100 robots in a show, just showing the gauntlet times. So you get some new teams turning out, maybe they don't have the reliability, but at least they get to have a go. With there's always limited entries in Robot Wars.
And I think it's also the Robot Wars environment also, it takes time to kind of get used to it. And having the cameras always in your face saying, what are you up to? What are you doing? It can be a little kind of, I think, for me, it found confusing to begin with. And like, what are we doing here? This is so far removed from our everyday job.
Some crew are always like, you're on in half an hour, you're going to be ready. Yeah, we'll be ready in half an hour. So you start stripping bits out. You've got the gearbox out in 5 minutes. So you start cleaning the gears out. And then they'll come over after 10 minutes of starting and they go, you need to be in the arena now. It's like, you said half an hour ago. And it's, can you get in the arena? Can you get in the arena? Just because that's the time pressures that are involved.
I think it's constant negotiation, you know, and you're already trying to persuade them, we just need another 10 minutes. We promise we'll be finished, you know?
Yes. So that was what was so upsetting about season 9, was that it was, can you get into the arena? Yes, we're fine. We could, because we put the robot back together after the Aftershock fight. We were basically ready to go into the arena at that point. We cut the front of the flipper off, bent it downwards because it bent upwards, and re-welded it after the Aftershock fight to get back in the arena. We were ready to go. It was just when it was in the pits, I turned the batteries on to test drive the drive, and at that point we realised it was, you need to be in the arena in 2 minutes, that we noticed that the gearbox problem. And it's like, how quickly can you fix it? Well, with the Rapid the way it was, it would have been about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they just said, if you're not ready, you're out. And I went, immediately I just said, we're out, because I knew we couldn't do it, which was annoying, but it was good, the fact it was such a difficult thing to fix. If it'd been one of those things where we were really working for 20 minutes and they said, you're out, that would have been annoying. We were just so far down the line of, it's not going to be fixed. We just went, no. I know that Jellyfish were in the van driving back towards the motorway, I think, at that point. They phoned them up and turned them around and said, get back to the arena.
You're on,
yeah. So then they went into the arena. But for their second fight, they took one of our spare speed controllers into Jellyfish. It's televised as there's quite a lot of competition, but it's actually a really friendly environment. Everyone's very nice.
Yeah, of course. I think that's so important, is the sort of camaraderie that comes along with any form of like robot combat event. Like, I think that's one thing that's so lovely about Robot Wars especially, is because everyone just wants to help each other. Like, you see in the pits, you see all the teams working together, helping each other out. Like, no matter how many times they say it's everyone, you know, they're all against each other, they all hate each other, like the sort of like Robot Wars extreme style thing. Like, it's not really like that.
I think there's obviously some rivalries between some teams that have just been whatever, but typically most people will help anyone else out. If someone says, can you give me a helping hand, they will do.
It's going to be interesting to see how the camaraderie will be over at King of Boss, because now you got a much more international feel. You got people from America, from Russia, from China, versus in Robot Wars where it's primarily all UK based.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting with King of Bots is that just the level of competition is a step higher. I know the BattleBots teams tend to have their own sorts of machine shops, or they work for an engineering firm, so they put crazy amount of effort into the machines, more so than Robot Wars. So going to King of Bots, it's like the top robots in the world. They're putting quite a lot of money into the machines. I imagine that the final of Robot Wars is going to be the quality of every single team that enters King of Bots.
Yeah.
We're expecting this version of King of Bots to be something special. We kind of see it as the World Championships now for robot combat, just because there's so many good teams from all around the world.
I think that's fantastic that this show's just come about. King of Bots 2018. This is the first Chinese robot combat show, and people have just loved it. And like every single Monday, I'd be sure to watch that episode, and I'd watch it over and over and over again. Some of the caliber of some of those fights in there, like you had, Megabyte, you had Great White, of course, Spectre. It was just, it's great. And, with Formula on the way, plus other teams coming from America, including, Jim Smentowski saying that he's entering, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I honestly think this season of King of Bots 1.5 could be bigger than BattleBots easily, because some of the big teams from BattleBots can't now make it to BattleBots because the notice for the competition was so short. We're talking, I think there's 54 entries for this King of Bots season, which is a big competition anyway, but I think 30 of the teams are sort of veteran Western teams, a lot more than you'd get in like season 1 of King of Bots.
I think also King of Bots it's opening up to a mass audience. So, for example, Britain, Robot War gets 1 million viewers, but King of Bots gets 40 million viewers, and the difference there in just who you access and how you access it is phenomenal. And you deal with China every day because, Andy, you get most of your objects or what you do in your work in China. So it's nice to kind of go to the country that actually our robot was made in China, shipped over to us, and now we're shipping it back again.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the nice angles we can play with King of Bots, is because I work so closely with Chinese manufacturers at work. The main parts of the robot were machined in China. So it's quite nice to say it was designed in the UK but made in China at a Chinese competition.
I mean, when you're on a televised show and when you're doing a robot combat thing like Robot Wars, BattleBots, or King of Bots, it's always great to have some form of personality, something that you can kind of give, like a little story or anything, just because it makes people notice you a little bit more. Like I know that with Spin Doctor, obviously you have David Calkins. He owns Robo Games, but he had this whole thing about how he was saying that he was there for respect and he wanted to show all the young Chinese teams just, what you can become if you stick with something. And I think that going into one of the shows and having a character or having a goal that you're going to say or something that a little story to tell, it just makes you just stand out a little bit more. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, we don't quite know how they're going to take us as a team in King of Bots, just the two of us. Yeah. We don't really know the story because I've not been team captain before. It was basically just me, just sort of having a bit of fun, really. So we don't know quite know what the team's going to be sort of presented as in China. I think we're going to work that out as we get there.
That'd be quite interesting, actually. Yeah, because like on Robot Wars, you guys are known as obviously you're the rich team. Like, I mean, I don't know how many times on episode they mention Rapid's £25,000 to make. Like that seems to be like the talking point of the episode if Rapid's in it. So it's going to be interesting to see, take Josh out of the equation, just having you two in there, and how differently they might treat you guys as like a team. Because I mean, we can see from this video, whatever you want to call it, that you're both really lovely people, and there's actually like people who are kind of like, oh, the Rapid team, I'm not particularly keen on those. They seem like really like full of themselves. Like that, it's a load of rubbish. It's
all down to the TV. The bits the edit of Josh is kind of like his slightly the attitude. He has a bit of that attitude, and all they do is edit that bit of him into the entire show. Because you're there for a week. All they need to get is sort of 10 minutes of him talking. That's whoever they want to present you as. I know that some of the filming for like Team Vulture was that they said, "Can you take that camera out of my face?" I think every single person in that studio said that at some point. Just the way they present some people is not quite right.
But in television,
it's television.
It's what you sign up for. And to be honest, I'm in charge of like the Twitter and Instagram accounts, and I was like, I really don't care what people say about us. Like, I really just do not care. But if they're bothering to type something on their computers, that's only a good thing. Let them chat whatever they want about us. We're pretty relaxed about it.
And if you go on Josh's Twitter, you'll realise he's liking all the negative comments on the
We noticed that quite a while ago.
Internet for these comments, and he's liking every single one of them. It's amazing.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Right, well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, guys. I know you guys have got to get going. You're very busy people.
No, thanks for having us.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and we hope to have you back. Just from chatting with you here, I think everyone who's watching this video can also tell just how lovely Team Rapid are. And
thank you.
They're brilliant people. Thank you so much for joining us.
Maybe after King of Bots Formula or after the season,
Yeah.
After King of Bots.
Yes, please.
But until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you also to Team Rapid for joining us. We'll be sure to check them out at King of Bots 1.5 when that's out, and hopefully Battle Bots in the future. But until next time, guys, I've been Harry.
I've been Charlie.
And you've been watching Talking with the Teams. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.